Hello, I'm Nima Rajan. Police have arrested an armed man who entered the grounds of where Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the country's Governor-General live. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police tweeted that the Prime Minister and Governor-General Julie Payette were not present at the time of the incident in Ottawa early this morning. The man is in custody and is being interviewed. Police have not released his identity and said charges are pending. Police deployed a large number of officers and at least one armored car to the grounds this morning. China's government and pro-Beijing activists in Hong Kong are condemning what they call foreign meddling in the territory's affairs. This as countries move to offer Hong Kongers refuge and impose sanctions on China over a new security law. A foreign ministry spokesman urged the U.S. to abide by international law and not sign a sanction bill into law. Meanwhile, dozens of pro-Beijing activists and lawmakers protested outside the U.S. consulate in Hong Kong to demand that the U.S. stop meddling. The condemnation comes a day after thousands took to the streets to protest against the new security law, which outlaws subversive, secessionist, and terrorist activities and carries a maximum punishment of life imprisonment. The Supreme Court of Canada has dismissed an appeal from 4 BC First Nations over the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion. This morning's decision effectively ends a legal battle that has continued over the project for several years. The Trans Mountain expansion project would nearly triple the amount of diluted bitumen flowing between Alberta's oil sands and a port in Burnaby, BC. The World Health Organization is recommending smokers quit in light of research linking smoking to a higher risk of severe illness and death from COVID-19. The UN Health Agency reviewed 34 published studies on the association between smoking and COVID-19 and found smokers represent up to 18% of hospitalized coronavirus patients. It says there appears to be a significant link between smoking and the severity of the disease, the type of medical interventions required, and a patient's risk of dying. A new COVID-19 contact tracing app that was due to launch today in Ontario has been delayed. A spokeswoman for the Ministry of Health says the province is still working with the federal government and expects the app to launch soon. The app will be voluntary and is designed to notify users based on a number of criteria, including if they were within 2 meters of a person who tests positive for the virus and if that contact took place over an extended period of time. After an initial run in Ontario, it will be available throughout the rest of the country. Well, following more than a month of anti-police brutality protests, calls continue for more police forces in Canada to adopt body-worn cameras. However, one study in the U.S. looked at camera use and found that the technology had no meaningful effect on how police react in certain circumstances. The University of Toronto's Eric Lamming, who studies police use of force, notes that there has not been enough research into the usefulness of the cameras in Canada. A man in his 30s is due to appear in court today after 3 children under the age of 5 died and 7 other people were hurt in a tractor accident southeast of Montreal. Provincial police say 2 adults are in critical condition. The 10 were riding in the front shovel of the farm tractor last evening when they were suddenly thrown out of it. Police say alcohol could have been a factor. TD has joined all the other major Canadian banks and more than 500 companies in their advertising boycott against Facebook. The move is aimed at forcing the social media giant into taking a stronger stand against hate speech. CEO Mark Zuckerberg has agreed to meet with the protesting coalition's organizers early next week. He noted that the business pushback is nothing like Facebook has experienced before. FBI agents arrested British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell this morning in New Hampshire. She has long been suspected of aiding Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking of women and girls by procuring underage sex partners. Mr. Epstein was arrested a year ago and died by suicide in a Manhattan jail months later. But U.S. federal prosecutors have never stopped investigating his associates. Ms. Maxwell has denied any wrongdoing. The American economy has now recovered roughly 1/3 of the 22 million jobs it lost to the COVID-19 recession, and the unemployment rate fell to 11.1% in the U.S. in June. But with cases spiking in several states and businesses shutting down once again, there is evidence that a job market recovery may be stalling. In a separate report, the Commerce Department says the U.S. trade deficit rose for the 3rd straight month in May. Both exports and imports fell as the coronavirus outbreak continued to take a toll on world commerce. The Supreme Court is leaving in place a decision that employers can't use past salary history to justify a pay disparity between male and female employees. The court declined to take up a case from the California-based U.S. Court of Appeals. Judges said that the Federal Equal Pay Act, which generally requires men and women to be paid equally for the same work, doesn't allow past salary history to be used as justification for a pay disparity. As is usual, the justices did not explain their decision, declining to take the case. The European Court of Human Rights has ruled that France violated the rights of 3 asylum seekers who lived for months in the streets with no means of basic needs such as food, housing, and healthcare. The court said that the 3 migrants, an Afghan, a Russian, and an Iranian, have been victims of a degrading treatment reflecting a lack of respect for their dignity. The court has ruled several times against France on its treatment of migrants, saying that the country is in breach of Europe's Human Rights Convention forbidding inhumane or degrading treatment. A British judge has ruled that he won't let Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro take more than $1 billion in gold sitting in a vault in the Bank of England. That's on the grounds that Britain does not recognize Mr. Maduro as president. Mr. Maduro wants the gold to help his cash-starved nation fight the COVID-19 pandemic, and his lawyer is vowing to appeal. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge heard from Fraser Health staff at Surrey Memorial Hospital about the challenges and impact on mental health that comes with caring for COVID-19 patients. They thanked frontline staff for their work during the crisis and told them that their work was appreciated. The couple also heard from a pregnant social worker about how she balances her workload while taking care of herself. Prince William says he is proud of frontline staff who had led the way, adding that they are putting patient care at the, quote, top of the list. Well, that'll do it for today's news update. I'm Nima Rajan. Thank you for joining us today, and I'll see you next time.